Good afternoon, everybody. How are you all? I'm doing well. Welcome, everybody, to my YouTube channel, Nature at the Very Core of Science. Today, we will read a story written by Dick Gregory. Let me tell something about the author, Dick Gregory. Richard Claxton Dick Gregory was born in St. Louis, Missouri, on October 12, 1932. He attended Southern Illinois University Carbondale until he was drafted into the United States Army. Gregory was also an American civil rights activist. He is notably recognized for his work during the 1960s, where he became a forerunner in stand-up comedy. He was the first African-American comedian to do stand-up comedy to successfully cross over to white audiences. Gregory paved the way for many black comedians to separate from the racially charged entertainment traditions. He became known as the Black Marshall because his style was ironic and satirical. The name of today's story is Shame. In this story, Dick Gregory discusses the humiliation that he felt one day during school when he was a little boy. Gregory was born into poverty and was fatherless. The story shows the hardships that he went through during that time. Being poor affects how people see us and treat others. The story Shame is a very symbolic piece of work to depict the necessity of an inner desire in spite of huge constraints to achieve significant milestones in life. Gregory's goal is to help the audience understand that we cannot avoid shame. Gregory reminds his audience that shame is part of life. Everyone experiences shame, even a 7-year-old boy. Therefore, we must get rid of our shame wrongly imposed by man-made society. Gregory also affirms that the skin color of a person does not define their future or success. So, let's begin the story Shame. I never learned hate at home or shame. I had to go to school for that. I was about 7 years old when I got my first big lesson. I was in love with a little girl named Helene Tucker, a light-complexioned little girl with pigtails and nice manners. She was always clean and she was smart in school. I think I went to school then mostly to look at her. I brushed my hair and even got me a little old handkerchief. It was a lady's handkerchief, but I didn't want Helene to see me wipe my nose on my hand. The pipes were frozen again. There was no water in the house, but I washed my socks and shirt every night. I would get a pot and go over to Mr. Ben's grocery store and stick my pot down into his soda machine and scoop out some chopped ice. By evening, the ice melted to water for washing. I got sick a lot that winter because the fire would go out at night before the clothes were dry. In the morning, I'd put them on wet or dry because they were the only clothes I had. Everybody's got a Helene Tucker, a symbol of everything you want. I loved her for her goodness, her cleanness, her popularity. She would walk down my street and my brothers and sisters would yell, "Here comes Helene!" And I would rub my tennis sneakers on the back of my pants and wish my hair was not so nappy and the white folks' shirt fit me better. I would run out on the street. If I knew my place and didn't come too close, she would wink at me and say hello. That was a good feeling. Sometimes I would follow her all the way home and shovel the snow off her walk and try to make friends with her mama and her aunts. I would drop money on her stoop late at night on my way back from shining shoes in the taverns. And she had a daddy, and he had a good job. He was a paper hanger. I guess I would have gotten over Helene by summertime, but something happened in that classroom that made her face hang in front of me for the next 22 years. When I played the drums in high school, it was for Helen. And when I broke track records in college, it was for Helen. And when I started standing behind microphones and heard applause, I wished Helen could hear it too. It was not until I was 29 years old and married and making money that I finally got her out of my system. Helen was sitting in that classroom when I learned to be ashamed of myself. It was on a Thursday. I was sitting in the back of the room, in a seat with a chalk circle drawn around it, the idiot seat, the troublemaker seat. The teacher thought I was stupid. Couldn't spell, couldn't read, couldn't do arithmetic, just stupid. Teachers were never interested in finding out that you couldn't concentrate because you were so hungry, because you had not had any breakfast. All you could think about was noontime. Would it ever come? Maybe you could sneak into the cloakroom and steal a bite of some kid's lunch out of a coat pocket. A bite of something. Paste. You can't really make a meal of paste or put it on bread for a sandwich, but sometimes I would scoop a few spoonfuls out of the big paste jar in the back of the room. Pregnant people get strange tastes. I was pregnant with poverty, pregnant with dirt, and pregnant with smells that made people turn away, pregnant with cold, and pregnant with shoes that were never bought for me, pregnant with 5 other people in my bed and no daddy in the next room, and pregnant with hunger. Paste doesn't taste too bad when you are hungry. The teacher thought I was a troublemaker. All she saw from the front of the room was a little black boy who squirmed in his idiot seat and made noises and poked the kids around him. I guess she couldn't see a kid who made noises because he wanted someone to know he was there. It was on a Thursday, the day before the Negro payday. The eagle always flew on Friday. The teacher was asking each student how much his father would give to the community chest. On Friday night, each kid would get the money from his father, and on Monday, he would bring it to the school. I decided I was going to buy a daddy right then. I had money in my pocket from shining shoes and selling papers, and whatever Helen Tucker pledged for her daddy, I was going to top it. And I would hand the money right in. I wasn't going to wait until Monday to buy me a daddy. I was shaking, scared to death. The teacher opened her book and started calling out names alphabetically. Helen Tucker. My daddy said he would give $2.50. That's very nice, Helen. Very, very nice indeed. That made me feel pretty good. It would not take too much to top that. I had almost $3 in dimes and quarters in my pocket. I stuck my hand in my pocket and held on to the money, waiting for her to call my name. But the teacher closed her book after she called everybody else in the class. I stood up and raised my hand. What is it now? You forgot me? She turned toward the blackboard. I don't have time to be playing with you, Richard. My daddy said he'd... Sit down, Richard. You are disturbing the class. My daddy said he would give $15. She turned around and looked mad. We are collecting this money for you and your kind, Richard. Gregory, if your daddy can give $15, you have no business being on relief. I got it right now. I got it right now. My daddy gave it to me to turn in today. My daddy said... And furthermore, she said, looking right at me, her nostrils getting big and her lips getting thin and her eyes opening wide. We know you don't have a daddy. Helen Tucker turned around, her eyes full of tears. She felt sorry for me. Then I couldn't see her too well because I was crying too. Sit down, Richard. And I always thought the teacher kind of liked me. She always picked me to wash the blackboard on Friday after school. That was a big thrill. It made me feel important. If I didn't wash it, come Monday, the school might not function right. Where are you going, Richard? I walked out of school that day, and for a long time, I did not go back very often.